Recently, I've been feeling like I've been jumping from one massive role-playing experience directly into another one, and I've got another one that I've been playing. It's called Dragon's Dogma 2. This is from Capcom. They shot me a review code for the PlayStation 5. Thank you, Capcom. And man, this game is insane. It is absolutely crazy. It's an open-world action-adventure role-playing experience, and it is loaded with all kinds of awesome mechanics. It's also very similar to the vibe and the ideas and the ambition of the original Dragon's Dogma game, which came out in 2012. And I remember enjoying that game, but it was filled with jank. And this game is also filled with jank on much more powerful hardware, whether you play it on the PS5 or you play it on other systems. I've been hearing that PC players haven't been so happy with its performance. I have got a brand new PC that I'm going to be reviewing soon, so I'm going to definitely throw this game at it and see what kinds of frame rates I'm getting from Dragon's Dogma 2 on that machine. But on the PlayStation 5, man, it does not run great. It really started to give me some seasickness, and I'm not lying. It really started to trip me out how I couldn't find that sweet spot, and the frame rates were all over the place. You have a choice of playing with variable frame rates or kind of trying to lock it at a 30 frames per second, and it has ray tracing that you can turn on or off, and I tried everything. I turned everything off and basically tried to lock it to 30, and even then, I was still feeling a bit queasy sometimes when I'd get into crowded towns and cities and stuff, because it just starts to chop out. But why it's doing that is kind of the story as well. This is an incredibly ambitious experience, and I'm not talking about its storytelling, because the storytelling is janky as well, like terrible camera angles and not great character models. I sound like I'm complaining a lot about this game. It's got an amazing character editor, so you can really customize your character to kind of look the way that you want them to, and I'm not happy with my character, but it costs $1 billion or something to find some book so that I can change my damn appearance, and I just haven't spent the money in that direction. I'm too busy roaming around the countryside trying to find pants for my guy. Because for some reason I put on some assless chaps and I was really powerful, running around with my ass hanging out, but it was more powerful than the other pants that I had. And then I found like this loincloth thing, this long loincloth thing, so my ass is still partly hanging out in the game, but I've got a lot more defensive capabilities, and you need them because there is so much emergent gameplay in this thing that you are going to be crowded by goblins and snake monsters and giant werewolf creatures and trolls and all kinds of scary-looking badass mofos that are coming after you all the time. And you can do cool things like jump on their backs and hang on, and you're stabbing them in the back, and that's super fun, and it gets your aggression out, but then you get swarmed, and then you die, and then it thankfully has sort of good autosaves along the way, but the game even says, look, you really need to save in the town because we don't trust our autosaves, so go to the inns and save because you're going to die a lot. And also the buddies that you have along with you, they're going to die a lot. They're called pawns, and you can build your own customizable one. I created one named Marion after Marion Ravenwood, hat tip. And she's great. She's an archer. I started out as an archer, though, and it was weird to have two archers, and we were scared to get into the combat, and so I switched over to be a thief where I had two blades. And it was fun to go stabby, but I felt like I was just getting up close and personal with every giant lizard monster, and they were just trouncing me. So I switched to a fighter with assless chaps, and he's pretty damn badass, I gotta say. And I'm still finding my way through this game. It's massive, but I've played enough to know how I feel about this game. I'm definitely going to continue playing it. I'm also going to go back and kind of re-examine the classic Dragon's Dogma experience and kind of think about how much it's changed and how much it's been iterated on, because I can't remember that game. It's been too many years. It's not the years, honey, it's the mileage. I've reviewed 1 million games since that original Dragon's Dogma title. But what I can tell you is that I'm having a blast in Dragon's Dogma 2. It is very fun, and these pawn ideas are pretty damn cool, too, because you create a pawn, and you can also pick up an extra couple of them, and you're going to need as many pawns as you want around you, because you're constantly going to get swarmed when you're going into caves and dungeons. You know, you're fighting giant-sized monsters, and then humans will start chasing after you. There's chaos in every direction, so have some friends, and they're virtual friends. It did make me feel like, man, it would be great to party up with other people and play this as a multiplayer experience. You can't do that, but the AI with these pawns is pretty cool, and what you can do with your main pawn is you can send them into the this rift, and these rift stones are scattered throughout the world of Dragon's Dogma 2, and they allow you to kind of peer into the ether, and you can go shopping for pawns, and you can find all kinds of pawns that people have created and Capcom has created. You can bring them into your party, and you can send your pawn into the rift, and they get picked up by other people and get added to their parties, and so they gain all kinds of, adventure and experience and items and things, and then you bring them back into your group, and they've got all this stuff, and you get a little list of all the people that have been hanging out with Marion, which is... I thought that was pretty cool. And man, do you need to be combat ready? The story components are kind of intriguing. There's lots of subterfuge and people trying to stab each other in the back and suspicion. But that whole sneaking around kind of idea and doing missions and stuff like that where you've got to infiltrate into castles. There's not really a stealth mechanic in this game. There are all kinds of different stats for stealth and other things that you can add up, but you can't really crouch and creep and crawl. You can disguise yourself because it's loaded with, lots of different costume ideas. Again, assless chaps, big part of the experience. But you're really just hacking and slashing or shooting arrows or magic or whatever at your enemies. And that's the reward and the fun. I wasn't that intrigued by the one-to-one interactions that I was having with characters. I really felt like, I'm the Arisen. I'm this magical, I'm the one. I've had my heart ripped out by a dragon. I'm alive still, and I am this entity. I am this chosen one of this world. That's about all I could really care about with the story. Now, I haven't finished everything, and I haven't kind of gone the whole route, and what's cool about this game is that I know everybody that plays it is going to have a totally different experience because it is so emergent. It just feels so sandboxy and sort of stacked upon, like just systems working with systems. And I like the fumbling around that you do in this game, and also the athleticism of the character, being able to jump up onto surfaces that look a little like, am I going to be able to climb those rocks and look up there and get to that statue? And lo and behold, you can kind of flip up and do all kinds of stuff, and suddenly you're on top of a mountain looking and surveying across the landscape that you're going to be traveling to next. You can't go in the water. If you fall in the water, this kind of bubbling blood goo with tentacles comes up and eats you, and so you've got to find the right rocks or bridges or stuff to get to different parts of the environment. You're going to be circling back quite a bit. There is fast travel in the game, and there is a lot of controversy around the fast travel because it costs you money to buy these fairy stones that allow you to zap to these little port crystals that are in different parts of the map. But it costs quite a bit of in-game currency to get these fairy stones, and you win them on missions and things like that as well. But it's not like readily available to you. You have to kind of have the patience to go and collect these fairy stones in order to fast travel, or you can buy them. So thank you, Capcom, for adding 1 million microtransactions after reviews went out. I mean, that's so shady. So that people could buy all kinds of stuff so they can do things like fast travel, which is crazy, or change their appearance. Also insane. The game has all of these really cool little hooks in them, and everything is available to players to just play through it and to, traverse everywhere. You can also hop onto ox carts, and they will take you to places, but you might get ambushed along the way and get into combat and swarmed by lizard beasts and all kinds of other enemies out there. Again, it is really dangerous in the world of Dragon's Dogma 2. It's also really fun to explore, although I did wish that I had a horse, that I could just hop on a horse. And honestly, playing through this game, I certainly had feelings like it almost felt like Bethesda made a Witcher game. You know what I mean? Like, the storytelling components are interesting, but also a little bit janky, and you can go into different characters' houses and steal everything. Like, you can just open up crates and stuff. But unlike a Bethesda game, they're not going to chase you around town. But if you get caught in a specific area in a mission or something like that, the enemies will chase you all the way through the town, and you'll have guards and knights and things like that chasing you, and then townsfolk will chase you and start punching you and kicking you, and you'll get swarmed, and you'll watch your pawns die, and you're freaking out. And that's your Saturday. I mean, that's just like huge chunks of time running for your life, freaking out and screaming, I'm going to die. Getting a little angry, a little upset. I'm giving you a peer into my existence here. And then restarting and trying not to fall into that same trap. It really reminded me of experiences that I had in Fallout New Vegas, where I got every faction mad at me, and anywhere I went, they wanted to kill me. It was really stressful. And I kind of felt like that in Dragon's Dogma 2. Like, I just felt like I was so vulnerable, and I couldn't just hop on a horse and ride away. I was running for my life a lot. But I was incredibly impressed, and the environments are cool, like the overworld and, you know, all of the foresty areas and the mountain areas and the water. All of it looks so beautiful. I was especially impressed by the creepiness of the dungeon crawls and going into caverns and not knowing where things were going to pop out, and some of the creatures and stuff will be climbing up on walls and ceilings. It's really, really ambitious and elaborate, and the giant monster combat is crazy fun. And again, it's just going to be so organic and emergent and weird, and you don't know what the hell you're supposed to do half the time or where you're supposed to go. And I think there's jank in the menu structure, in the mission structure, in the map structure. All of it just feels a little kludged together, but it all works. And then you're just kind of peeling the onion layers and you're finding fun in all of these different directions. And I don't think any of it would come together quite as well if it wasn't just fun to get into the battles. And they are super freaking cool. You've got archers on the hill, you've got magic users that are throwing down lightning bolts and creating force field areas for you to heal up a little bit in. You're going in there with your blade weapon and you're hacking and slashing, and then there's all kinds of new vocations that you can pick up along the way that embellish and add different nuance and layers to all of this combat as well. This is a crazy cool experience, but it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for those of you out there that kind of want more direction and more guidance on where you're supposed to go. I have to tell you that I had, I think, a little more fun because the gameplay was more tuned like that in Rise of the Ronin, which was the last giant action role-playing experience that I was playing. But I don't know if Rise of the Ronin is quite as ambitious as Dragon's Dogma 2 is. I've got more to experience, I've got more to check out, and more to say about Dragon's Dogma 2, but I am digging it, and what I've played so far, I would give an 8.5 out of 10 to.